G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. I'm going to have a discussion about Senator Fraser Anning and a certain egg and a pair of punches. But before that, let's have a look at Isaac Butterfield, the Buttsman, and his view of things. Here we see a picture of Fraser Anning, the 69-year-old Queensland senator, independent senator, and the young fella with his camera and the egg, ready to egg salt Senator Fraser Anning.
Fraser Anning released a statement the day of this horrible tragedy, where thousands upon thousands of people have been affected. And what did he say in his statement? He said that it wasn't the fault of this terrorist that went through and slaughtered these innocent people. No, it was the fault of the innocent Muslim people who were there praying because they came to that country. What the fuck, mate? It is their fault. They're sitting there fucking praying, you dumb shit, in a completely safe, secure, and peaceful environment. And you're saying that this terrorist who comes in and takes their lives, it's not his fault, it's theirs? Fuck you, mate. Fuck you. So, as the population of Australia, how do we react to this? Thankfully, out of this shit situation and this horrible circumstance with Fraser Anning, we met an Australian hero. An Australian hero was born. The man that one day may replace Vegemite on the shelves, Will Connolly. Now, Will was just, sitting back enjoying a Fraser Anning speech, and then he decided very slowly to lift his phone, start filming, and Will egg the fuck out of Fraser Anning. Good shit, Will. Good fucking shit, mate. You're a true Australian hero now, my friend. Obviously, for legal reasons, I'm not encouraging this type of behaviour, but just between you and me, Will, you're a fucking legend, mate. So after Will made an omelette out of this bald man's head, he Fraser turned around, an Australian senator nonetheless, tried to slap him and tried to jab at him, and then he was tackled by Fraser Anning's cronies that were hanging around. And then this is probably the part that we should all really address. It was quite a dangerous situation for young Will. I mean, he's getting choked here. He could have lost consciousness. It could have turned out quite poorly. So probably don't do things like this. It's very dangerous. You don't know who's around, so just be careful. There's another guy that attacked Fraser Anning at the airport. They have new fucking rules, huh? They have new rules. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. They have new rules for families, huh? They have any fucking remorse? Huh? Straight up. Yeah, I'm not touching you. I'm leaving you alone. They have any remorse? All the people that died and everything, and then you tell me, hey, fuck it, huh? You know how to swear, don't you? You're a senator. You're a senator of Australia. Look how you act. You're a senator. You have no fucking remorse. Yeah, go do something. Go do something. You're representing Australia, aren't you? Go do something. I think we shouldn't resort to physical violence at all. I think we should absolutely have political discourse and, argue with this fucking idiot. Because we all very much know two wrongs don't make a right. And if we go out of our way to use violence against someone, it's never going to end. But nonetheless, in saying that, Will, from me, on behalf of all Australia, congratulations on winning Australian of the Year, and we all love you very much. Big love heart, Will. Good fucking on you, mate. Oh, and Fraser, fuck you to the moon, dickhead. But while all this is happening, let's not forget that.
Okay. Thank you, Isaac Butterfield. I acknowledge you and am grateful for you not getting the shits with me using you and your video in my video. Okay, well, what do we see? The first thing we see is the beer is empty. So, here comes another one. Just like the other 1, 2, 3. Because when you're talking about the law and you're talking about politics, you got to be lubricating your throat. Righto. So think very carefully about what you saw in that video. May not be beautiful definition. Nice bit of editing on Isaac's part. Go and look for better copies of it elsewhere on the internoodle if you feel like it. But what you saw there was a teenager, a 17-year-old, and in Australia, if you're not 18, you can't vote. You can't buy alcohol. You can't get married without your parents' consent. You can't join the military forces. In Australia, if you're 17, you are a child at law. The age of consent for males in Australia, it's 18. You can't even have sex. Right, so we've got a child who's not allowed to vote. And he's confronted with an Australian federal senator who was elected with 19 votes. I said in a video on Saturday he had 3 votes, but no, he actually had 19 primary votes when he was a member of the One Nation Party. And his old boss, Pauline Hanson, has said that she refuses to vote against him in the Senate censure motion, which is proposed to be tabled against him. She will abstain. She won't vote in a censure motion against her ex-colleague who used her party's funds to get elected and then dumped her to become an independent. However, yeah, what he said amounts to, in words to the effect that it's not Brendam Tarrant's fault that he went and shot 100 Muslims and killed half of them in Christchurch in New Zealand with 5 guns. It's the Muslims' fault, because if there weren't any Muslim immigration, then there wouldn't be any bloody mass shootings at the mosques. If they didn't come out here to white man's land, Australia and New Zealand, Aboriginal land and Maori land, then if they didn't come out here to the white man's land, we wouldn't have to be shooting them at the mosques, you see. So it's not the white fella's fault. It's all the fault of the Muslims. So said Senator Fraser Anning. Senator Fraser, anally retentive Anning. And yeah, this young fella went and smacked him on the back of the head, the egghead, with an egg on the head. And since that's happened, a few things have occurred. Australia's Prime Minister has said that Fraser Anning should face the full force of the law, as enforced by the Victorian police in Melbourne, because that's where it occurred. And I do point out that there's been a bunch of sub-Saharan African refugee migrants living in Melbourne who've spent the past 5 or 10 years complaining about the racist white nationalist tendencies of the Melbourne police. So that could be why Fraser Anning got up there today and he stated for the media that he's not at all worried about being charged with assaulting a child. He's not worried about child abuse and assault charges, because all he did was smack the young boy in the head, just like his mother should have done. Okay, Fraser Anning, I have successfully defended myself in court against charges of assault, and I use self-defence, excessive use of force in self-defence, as my successful defence in court. So I know a thing or two about this stuff under discussion. And I'm going to tell you, my YouTube audience, why I think the Victorian prosecutor has no option but to charge Senator Anning. Firstly, let's consider the term self-defence. In order to defend yourself, you must first be being attacked. In Australia, it's not enough to fear that you're going to be attacked. You must actually be being attacked. So that means your attacker must be enabled to get their first blow in before you can defend. Essentially, first they hit you, then you defend against them if they continue their attack. That's how it works at law. Easiest way to explain it is that if person A pulls out a toothpick and assaults person B with it, to assault them, you have to merely make them believe you are capable of attacking them with it. So if person A pulls out a toothpick and says, I am going to stick this into you, person B has some options. They may, at law, withdraw a toothpick of their own and commence sword fighting with toothpicks. If they lack a toothpick at the opportune moment, they may, at law, seize hold of their antagonist's wrist, and while ever the antagonist maintains the grip of the toothpick and is attempting to assault or attack them, They can overpower their antagonist. They can use the antagonist's toothpick to sew the antagonist's nose shut, poke their eyes out. However, if the victim of the attack by the antagonist is to confiscate the toothpick from the antagonist and then proceed to stuff it through their eardrums as punishment for having launched an attack, that's not self-defense. That's taking the law into one's own hands and attempting to punish the person about whom one should have complained to the police. And the police should have arrested the egg salter, and if it pleased the police, if they considered the complaint made by Senator Anning to be reasonable, then they could have charged the young boy with assault. What actually happened was the young boy hit the senator with one egg. He didn't have a box of eggs. He wasn't standing there ready to throw more. He was not continuing any assault, egg salt. He smacked the old codger on the back of the head with one egg. And the old codger turned around, saw that it was a young boy on his own, unarmed, helpless. And the 69-year-old man stepped forward and punched the boy in the face. The boy retreated, recovered his balance, and the old codger stepped forward and smacked him in the head again. And then a whole bunch of thugs jumped on the young boy and wrestled him to the ground and put him in a chokehold. Okay. The thugs who grabbed the young boy and put him in a chokehold will have no trouble defending any sort of assault charges, because they will say that they were effecting a citizen's arrest of a potential terrorist at a political event. However, the 69-year-old man who was not being attacked, who decided to punish a youth, a child, he is up shit creek. He didn't like the alleged insolence of a young boy hitting him on the head with an egg because he had affronted and annoyed a nation. 1.2 million people have signed a petition to have Fraser Anning thrown out of the Senate, which on the one hand is difficult to do, but on the other hand, it's perfectly easy to achieve under these circumstances. Fraser Anning has on camera twice, 2 punches, he has assaulted. He's committed common assault against a child. The Victorian police prosecutor has no option but to press charges and see what the court thinks. And if the court takes one look at that, believe you me, brother, if that was a black fella out the other side of Moree, if he was seen in the main street punching a little boy, he'd be going to jail, fella. You ask King Billy Coke Bottle. So Fraser Anning, he's no more cultured, no more civilised than all the black fellas and the brown fellas and the yellow fellas that he affects to despise. And here's the thing. He's a senator. That means he's not permitted to have ever been convicted of anything carrying any potential penalty of more than 6 months or more than $1,000. That means when, not if, but when he is charged and convicted, Senator Fraser Anning has just punched goodbye to his parliamentary pension. And it gets him out well before his term expires. So, Prosecutor, do your duty! And press charges against the old prick. And we have 2 cherries atop this cake. On the one hand, the young egg thrower set up, or somebody set up, a GoFundMe account to cover his legal fees. And within 24 hours, it had come up with $40,000 for his legal fees and to buy new eggs. Buy more eggs. And the other thing is that not only are they going to fix their gun laws, Jessica Ardern said that in honour of Peter Dutton having maniacally exported every Kiwi who had been found guilty of committing any crime in Australia which carried any more than 6 months, possible term of imprisonment, sending them back to New Zealand to defend Australia and protect Australia against all the wicked, evil, criminal Kiwis. She said they're considering the idea of trying Bren Dumb Tarrant and convicting him and sentencing him and then deporting him back to Australia so he can go into jail alongside Martin Bryant and Damien Knight, the two other white Christian Australian mass killers whose score he doubled. Baubles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao. Such is life.